Hello, gorgeous ones. How are you doing? It's so lovely to see you live. It's been a long time. I am Rosanna, RozyGlow Hannis, and I actually work with awakening starseeds. So basically activating starseeds so they can remember their mastery here on this earth and why they came and what it is exactly that they wanted to support others with in this lifetime. So it felt really important to make a video about what starseeds actually are and recognizing you're a starseed. When I look online at what else is available, there's a lot of really out there stuff, and that all may be true. What I'm going to be sharing with you today is based on my own experience, both in myself discovering I'm a starseed because it was a new concept to me, and then also working with my clients and seeing how they integrate these concepts of higher frequency consciousness in their physical reality. So if you like the sound of this, please do hit the subscribe button. You are subscribing to Grace, which is the power of revelation. I channel divine grace as part of my starseed frequencies. I also speak light language, which is another sign of being a starseed. Ultimately, what I'm going to do is just go through some of the things I've discovered to support you to see whether you actually resonate. And if you do, I have lots of different ways that you can connect with me to be able to amplify your connection to your starseed consciousness and integrate so that you can be in your human body and have a wonderful time rather than feel like you really don't belong here and you shouldn't be here because you have come for a reason. So let's get started. One of the other ways that starseeds are actually described is as wanderers. Okay, so what I feel is helpful is to demystify some of what is actually said. So when I read and research, I hear that starseeds come from other places. They don't come from Earth. And I'm kind of like, well, no one really comes from Earth. If we let go of this idea of Darwin's theory, which it actually has some merit in some respects, because you can, kind of get this idea that maybe we have evolved from mammals, other mammals. But what actually made us humans, what actually brought us to the point that we have a consciousness about us where we actually self-identify? For me, this is where the starseed consciousness actually came in. And if you think about how we have our different races, if you like, as humans, that we have different features, we have different colored skin. You can say on one level that we have adapted to our environment, and as a result of that, we have adapted our physiology. But there's another element to this, and this is very much coming through intuitively through me. So I'm sharing with you, and you can see how you resonate. And this is the different extraterrestrial splicing, if you like, that has happened over time. By that, I mean extraterrestrials mating with earthlings, whatever earthlings are or were at the time, and actually creating this higher frequency consciousness, which was, if you like, the start of genetic engineering. And genetic engineering on many levels has been occurring for many, many, many thousands of years in lots of different places. So it's not new. And I think it's helpful for all of us to recognize we're hybrids on some level. The question is, what do we want to be hybrids of? Do we want to be hybrids of various higher frequency consciousness in physical reality form? Or do we actually want to be governed by a lack of compassion, pure consciousness without compassion, and basically just being driven by someone else's intention? So a key element of starseeds is that we seek to be autonomous. We seek to be sovereign. We seek to reclaim our power fully. We want to take responsibility. We want to do what we want to do. And it feels very restrictive when we actually find ourselves having to follow others' orders. So let's just go through some of these elements, and I will discuss them in deeper ways for those of you who would like to know more. All right. So as I said, this is coming from me. This is not coming from research. This is my experience. So if it doesn't resonate, let it go. If it does, then yay, you're in the right place. So I start by saying that starseeds are highly evolved souls that have elected to come to a lower density planet, or a lower frequency density, in order to support its ascension, in order to support its evolution, if you like, and its inhabitants. Now, a key element about starseeds is that we are electing to come. We don't have to come. We choose to come out of compassion and free will. It is just a choice that comes at some point on our evolutionary path as souls to actually come back in and say, let me go and support those that actually need that support. Just like this has been done in the past when we have had extraterrestrials come visit the Earth, which, you know, if you don't quite believe that yet, okay, just keep an open mind. But we have had all sorts of sources of advancement given to us, whether it's technology, education, systems of function, all sorts of things over time, mostly hidden. And a lot of things are hidden. It doesn't mean they don't exist. And so you won't find it in the mainstream media, the mainstream news, except there is a lot more coming out about that these days if you look for it. So previous advanced civilizations, beings have come to support ascension at different times. A starseed embodies a human form, but still has the consciousness of having come from other places or spent time in other higher, more highly evolved societies, if you like, more highly evolved races. And this planet is particularly dense, so we have a very physical reality, if you like. Our bodies are very dense rather than more light-filled. But wherever we are, the important thing for all of us, I believe, to remember is that it's all about love, okay? Are we experiencing conflict as a result of the messages we're receiving from those who are coming and teaching us? Or are we learning to become more loving, compassionate beings, wherever we're being taught from? This is very important because the mind wants to understand everything. And I'm really going on what I have been told. So at this point in my consciousness as a starseed, I am a galactic consciousness. So I hold the galactic frequency of RozyGlow. Now, within a galaxy, there are billions of stars, billions of planets. And just to be able to kind of allow yourself to expand to that and to consider that, yes, of course, there is consciousness in our galaxy, in our universe, in our solar system, beyond us humans here on planet Earth. And in fact, there's one thing that's absolutely certain, is that there's consciousness everywhere. So this tapping in is really about us being able to receive the information from our star families, which is really those beings that we really resonate with. Think about, on this planet, there are 7.7 billion people plus, right? You don't get on with everyone, right? Birds of a feather flock together. So in our evolutionary journey, first of all, we all start as the collective oneness, which is source, all that is. But in order to know ourselves, we have to drop out of that oneness, be separate from it, and then seek to reunify with it. This is the most simple way I can explain our reunification with the divine. So us recognizing that we're not just humans, we're divine humans, that we're not just physical or we're not just consciousness, but we are love as well. And that the ultimate frequency in this universe is love. That is what this is all about. Now, let's come back to some of the points, because I could go on, and I just want to keep it to this idea that we have chosen to come here. So one way that I actually describe Starseeds is Ascended Masters in Training. And ultimately, we choose our curriculum at this level. Okay, so what we're doing is we're coming in, we're choosing to support the ascension of a space that needs ascending. And we go through the trials and tribulations that we actually need to go through in order to remember our mastery. So all human beings, with very rare exceptions, because there are exceptions, as we enter, a soul enters into a physical body, a human body, it forgets its previous lives, its previous incarnations, its previous learnings and teachings on its way back to oneness. So when I talk about a highly evolved soul, what I mean by that, this is not a hierarchy. It's not like one soul is born better than another. We're all individual sparks. It's just where we are on our evolutionary journey or our reunification journey. How far have we got back into this integration with the divine, the recognizing the divine is inside of us and not separate, because the divine spark's in here. So for us as starseeds, we're really excited about supporting the remembering of everyone's previous gifts and incarnations. And when we do come along, it is to support an evolutionary leap, a quantum leap, so that where there's potential that a planet is actually causing problems in other areas of a solar system, a galaxy, in the universe, because of what it's going through. We kind of come and restore balance. That's a huge part of this. Or harmony is a better word than balance. And I know Melanie Gillespie will agree with me. We restore the harmonics and allow there to be a new frequency brought in. But for us, what it actually means as we come here is we typically get born into very challenging early life conditions. And we do this because we have chosen them. We have chosen the bloodlines we've come to. We have chosen to evolve those bloodlines to support the release of the karma drama that is in that family, in those bloodlines, in order to allow progression to be faster for all of humanity. We're talking about this planet. So this, what ends up happening is we can very often forget our mission. And this is why one thing I see as the biggest damage for starseeds is actually that we buy so much into the conditioning that we inherit from our bloodlines that we forget that the reason we chose to come is because there was resonance from previous lessons we have been through with these family members, with these bloodlines. So the reason we choose these bloodlines is to remember our mastery through their experiences and be able to help them evolve because we've already been through this process. What tends to happen though, and there is a risk to this, we do try and put as many fail safes in as possible, which will explain how we do that in a second. But very often, and I see this a lot, we get so bought into the bloodline stories and the amnesia that we experience in being born and coming into physical form means that we can actually go through our whole lives and not ever remember we're masters, where we experience our challenges. The damage can be really intense. And that's why, if I explain soul blueprint, soul purpose. So your soul purpose is what you have chosen, your curriculum for coming into a lifetime, whatever that may be. Let's just say in this instance, it is about supporting ascension. And you have a specific element to play in that, born to your strengths. For me, I spent many, many years working with pregnancy, with fertility, with birth, with early life. So my work is to support people to go back to their foundations and clear up this density that they've picked up so they can remember their soul gifts and then start to utilize them. That's my special area, if you like. So these early human imprints and rediscovering our soul roots. Everyone has something that is uniquely theirs. And I have this sense and a vision of how things could actually be in terms of how we could actually take care of fertility, conception, pregnancy, birth, and early life so that we don't keep creating trauma from one generation to the next, which is called intergenerational trauma. Now, to me, it makes perfect sense. I can see all the components. I can see what needs to happen. But what surprises me, and this is typical for a starseed, is that no one else really gets it. Or those who do get it are in such a battle on a lower level, which is more about power, control, the need to be recognized, whatever it is that's going on in terms of their own personal journey, that the mission is never actually fulfilled. So what's important for us to do is to be able to have access to the tools that we need in order to clear up the toxicity we've actually inherited and to be able to then, as we grow and we evolve, help others to do the same. So we go through the trials and tribulations in our early life in order to master them, in order to then be able to teach something related to them and therefore liberate others, or actually support them to liberate themselves, because all we're doing is giving people back their magic wands and teaching them how to use them, how to use your free will, how to use your consciousness to co-create. That is what being more highly evolved is about, taking responsibility, moving out of victim consciousness and actually coming into a place where we can actually co-create with the divine in us. And that's, again, this relationship to ascended masters. Very important to remember this, because there's lots of different ideas out there, right? And from my point of view, as I recognize myself as a starseed, I would just say that what resonates is what you go with. It will then take you to the next level. So some key human attributes that occur as we go through this whole journey is this brings us back. Sorry, I'm going forward and back a bit, but it's important. So as a soul coming in, our soul blueprint is what we have chosen for ourselves. It's what we have come here to actualize in this life, in us, in order to be able to fulfill our chosen mission. Now, on that soul blueprint is this awareness of remembering our gifts and actually what we have put in place that is predestined in order to maximize our chances of actually fulfilling what we came here to do. Now, there is this balance between predestiny and free will. We elect all of it. So those we are predestined to meet, events that are predestined to occur in our personal lives and in the collective, are already agreed. They're not happening to us, they're happening through us. So remember that those that you feel might be your biggest enemies are actually in many ways your best friends, because they've come to help you to learn the lessons you need to evolve beyond this idea of being powerless and being a victim. And one key element about starseeds, because we have this challenging early life for the most part, is we are crippled with self-doubt. We have so much self-doubt and lack of self-worth that actually, again, we pick this up. It's not our true nature, but we pick it up from coming into this lower density. We literally believe in the lie that we have come here to help to bring light to and to evolve beyond. Another element about your soul blueprint, because this is important, is in your earliest life imprints. So your conception, pregnancy, birth, you formed pre-cognitive beliefs, we all do, that are both the lock and the key to fulfilling our destiny. So those limiting beliefs that we have about ourselves and the world, those really, really early ones before childhood, right? Before the birth even, like before that, they're so far back, so deeply ingrained that they kind of thwart us every time we're going through another gateway, another stargate, another evolutionary leap, because that is the key thing that we have come here to overcome, to remember it's part of the lie. And it's not just a lie in our lives, it's a lie in the collective. So when I say it's both the lock and the key, it's both the block and the liberation, right? So exploring those earliest beliefs that have come about through your earliest influences, I call this early imprints, is very important for you to be able to unlock your soul blueprint. There are other elements too, like numerology, human design, astrology. There are all sorts of different elements that support us to remember our mastery, including crystals. So the really beautiful thing about crystals is when we have incarnated in previous lifetimes on this earth, and starseeds generally have, they know the terrain, that's why they've come here. We have embedded our previous mastery and wisdom and knowledge, all that we have learned, into the consciousness of these crystals. So when we're ready to activate it again, we start getting really drawn to crystals. We start drawn to working with them so that we can fully activate and remember. Now, for many of us, we were here in the time of Lemuria and Atlantis, the Atlantean downfall. And we're in our infinite wisdom at that point, we knew there was something going down. That is when we put the majority of what we needed to in these crystals so we could remember when we needed to. Okay, so it's a big part of this. And actually, you know, another common element of being a starseed is that we are recognized as being neurodiverse. Now, the idea is to recognize ourselves as neurodiverse. For many of us, we believe we have mental health disorders or issues, and we do have, in many ways, right, inherited trauma and early life challenges that have led to it being difficult for us to be in this world as it seems others are. But one thing that's absolutely for sure is we're looking around, looking for that normal and wondering why we're not normal, whatever that is. But like, I'm inviting you at this point to consider, we can talk about neurodiversity, but we're also at a point where we're having this whole gender and sexual orientation conversation. And if you consider on a soul level, we're all androgynous. But in order to kind of understand ourselves, we separate out of that androgyny into male, into female, so we can procreate. And now we're at this stage of evolution where we're recognizing ourselves not wanting to identify specifically as a gender. That's, you know, many are feeling that, and also exploring different elements of sexual orientation, which doesn't just mean I am straight, I am gay, I am bisexual, but what else is there? And this is the spectrum of us understanding so much more about our individual frequencies. But ultimately, we can agree that we are soul consciousness in physical form, if you are open to that. And I would suggest we open to this idea again of what is the norm, because now is it normal to be able to just function in such a way that you don't need some form of diagnosis? What is the normal? It's really important to recognize this, because many starseeds have been trying to fit into little boxes, to fit into what other people say they should be, to try and do things the way others do them, and we can't, because our frequency is much higher. So for example, for me, I've always got about 20 tabs open on my computer. That's how I remember things. Now, in my earlier life, I would have been beating myself up about the fact that I've got 20 tabs open, and if I'm going to be an organized boss and I'm going to run my own business, I should only have one at a time, and I should fulfill all tasks to the end and only focus on one thing at a time, and I should be good at time management. And what else should I do? Have one project going at a time. We don't work like that. We're multidimensional. We need to be operating in ways where there's lots of things going on at the same time. We're very capable of being able to do that, but we have to follow our own energy with this. So, many elements that form a diagnosis, this is where I'm getting to, are for us to recognize that it's not wrong or bad that we are different. Okay. And this is why this term neurodiversity is a really powerful term, to allow us to accept that we're just wired differently. Now, I don't know how many children genuinely in a classroom are wired to just be able to function the way that we're told to function without having to suppress something or in some way be making ourselves something we're not. I don't know, but I'd be very interested to find out. In the same way that, when we come to gender again, we say, well, do I recognize myself as a woman, as a man, as a they? Do I recognize myself in such a way that I don't want to have a label put on me? All of this is important because it's part of the separating to reunify. Like, we don't want to be identifying or forced to identify with that which doesn't resonate. And that's huge for starseeds. It's why we generally have quite a rebellious spirit, even if it is suppressed. So typically in your early life, you will have had trials and tribulations, starting with potentially a difficult pregnancy for yourself, a difficult birth, potentially separation at birth. Maybe there were issues in childhood, like you were left to cry. Maybe you had a depressed parent or anxious parent. Maybe your parents separated or a parent died. There will have been traumas in early life. And those traumas were basically to instigate in you the issues that were huge for you to deal with, so you could start to seek solution. And typically we're born into families which are lower density, so they don't understand how to meet our needs, and it can feel incredibly lonely. So we'll go through our teenhood basically feeling like we don't belong. Very often we will seek to numb out, so we will self-medicate or we'll seek to disassociate from our bodies, whether that's sex, whether that's alcohol, whether that's smoking, drinking, recreational drugs, whether it's pharmaceutical drugs. We tend to go off center to find center. And again, much of this is to move beyond the judgment of what is right and wrong, because starseeds are here with a new frequency. And this new frequency is about moving beyond duality into oneness. So the rules of the old world don't operate in the new world that we are here to co-create. Another element of our gifts, if you like, is that we come in with an awareness of how things could be. We have a very different idea in our heads or our minds or our imagination about how education could work, how politics could work, how the food industry could work, how we could live in harmony with the environment rather than position technology and technology and advancement against the environment. We are learning to move beyond the archetypes, the savior complex, the idea that somehow we don't have it all inside of us. So starseeds come with a vision, if you like, and part of our earliest challenge is that others don't see this vision. So because we have this tremendous self-doubt, we start to not believe in our vision because we need a lot of external validation. The way the world is set up is you should be validated externally. And if you're not, you're doing something wrong. But that's a very low density, egocentric mindset based on duality. And that's exactly what we've come here to evolve and to support others to evolve beyond when they're ready, according to their free will. So we get lost in the matrix, basically. We get lost in the fear matrix. We buy into the lie. And actually, our guides and our teachers, our star families, do a lot of work to try and support us to remember without freaking out. So in my experience, and this is my journey, let me show you this. This is super cool. So this was drawn by a very cool lady called Jane. And this kind of actually represents the different star constellations that I am in contact with. So in particular, we have here Andromeda, Sirius, Regis, and Arcturus, and also the Pleiades. Where's that one gone? Pleiades and Neptune and Lyra. Okay, so these are the different star systems that I'm connected to. There's different star families and constellations. And what would I say about that? I had no idea. Until last year that was the case. Or I had no idea that I was connected to them. I didn't even speak light language until this year, right? So what I'm getting to is the way that we receive the information that we're starseeds is different for all of us. Some of us have a mass awakening, like this awakening, instant recognition and remembrance, a union with the divine, if you like. And others have slow incremental shifts like I did. So I never had any big event that happened that I could say this was the moment. It's all happened incrementally. And typically I receive messages in my dream state. So I didn't know I was a channel until a few years ago, right? So channeling divine grace, the power of revelation, in an older kind of framework, channels channeled other entities. So we channel Kuan Yin, we channel Jesus, we channel who else? Well, channel Abraham. There's all sorts of examples, right? But what about just channeling your higher self consciousness? What about channeling the divine through you? Right? This is the role of the starseeders, to reclaim our connection with the divine. We don't need any extra messengers along the way. So our star families work to support us to be able to be here and to remember slowly, without blowing a gasket, who we really are, and it's a process that happens as we're ready. So typically we'll have an awakening on some level, then we stabilize, then we need to go to the next level and stabilize. And of course, with the self beat up, with the self-doubt, is the potential that we just keep going round and round and round in circles, chasing our tails, stuck in our heads, when actually you cannot grow in consciousness from being in that thinking brain all the time. You have to engage your imagination, which is when you start to receive the downloads from your stars families. Now, light language is interesting because when we speak it, initially, we might not necessarily know what it means, but it's frequency codes that help us to remember. With time, for those of us who do start to speak it, and how do you start it? Well, you start off having the desire to, right? The desire to, you hear others are doing it, you're like, what's that all about? I wonder if I can. And you just allow it to start to come through you. You feel like a bit of a tit initially because you think that you're completely mad, this is my experience. And then you start to get the information coming through that is supporting what that light language actually means. So myself as a starseed, I channel the frequency of divine grace through my galaxy RozyGlow. I was gifted the information from my star families that I have come here to bring the StarPeace codes to this earth. But I did not get that information until 2 years ago, 31st of October 2020. So it was in the thick of the terror zone, right? When we were all having a fear detox, that I received this information. And we'll go through the self-doubt. I've gone mad, get the straitjackets, da, 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 da. It's like, no, this is real. Okay, you are here. This is your new mission, seed StarPeace into the collective consciousness of humanity. Okay, then, what does that mean? Well, we rewrite the narrative of the collective consciousness by reframing both the past and the present to create a shift in the future by creating a shift now. So we have to imagine beyond what we know, what else is possible. And for the average human who hasn't activated their extrasensory perception or is not in the space of bringing these higher frequency this higher frequency consciousness through, the ideas are not going to be there. Let's just get on with life, right? It's like, get on with life, do as you're told. Maybe there's a little rebellion, a little exploration, but it's not the same as coming in with like, I've come here to bring this to the world. I've come here and I see this thing that no one else sees. Oh my goodness, no one sees it. So I must be wrong. No, you're not wrong. You have come here to bring that through. And there will be others that are connected to your mission, right? And so we have to activate our light bodies. Six-pointed star becomes a diamond shape as we integrate and evolve our inner family. And in so doing, birds of a feather flock together, the star seeds connect. And what we do is we activate the crystalline grid in the earth, the divine mind grid, which allows us to go beyond what we know and activate imagination, and also the divine human heart grid, which allows us to evolve into compassion and instigate that evolution in all of humanity. Right, let's see. So I've mentioned neurodiversity riddled with self-doubt. We typically might recognize ourselves as emotional empaths. We're incredibly sensitive to others. And this can make sex really interesting. So I'll go there in a second. But emotional empaths are said to absorb the unprocessed emotions of those around them. And what else do we say about emotional empaths? There are different forms of being an emotional empath. So the main thing is, am I feeling what is mine, or am I feeling what is someone else's that they're not expressing? As children, we are all, whether you call yourself an emotional empath or not, sponges for the unprocessed emotions of those that are around us. Okay. Now, how we deal with that is different. For some, they'll just suppress, shut down, be unaware, never really open that connection to their heart to find out. For others, we find ourselves with all these emotional states that we actually inherit from our time in the womb, and then they get further imprinted in our early lives that we think are who we are: anxious, depressed, worried, foreboding, worst case scenarios, lacking self-worth, insecure, all these different things we then label ourselves with. I think there's something wrong with us and we've created it. It's like, no, you inherited that. You picked that up. You absorbed it. These are patterns of behavior that were expressed around you. Children don't do as their parents tell them. They do as they do. And it doesn't matter whether this is a biological parent or not, because the environment will determine genetic expression. And we have our sort of biology, if you like, as humans, but we also have these God particles or divine particles within our DNA. And they're said to exist in the junk DNA, which isn't junk DNA. So we're learning so much about the way that we exist on this earth as consciousness, right, in this physical form. For us as starseeds, what is absolutely essential is that we learn to trust our inner authority above all else. That means we stop looking for external validation. So 2 terms: when you are not afraid of pain, you will feel happiness. When you are not afraid of failure, you will succeed. So not only do we have these earlier trials and tribulations in life, but as we are getting close to really activating our soul mission, our soul blueprint, we end up testing ourselves like you would not believe, because we do not want to abuse our power. We know what it means to abuse power. We've done it before. And we've had our power abused, if you like. So there's a real sense of responsibility in starseeds. There's a real sense of integrity, of wanting to get it right, which can really show as perfectionism and as procrastination. So I appreciate that these terms could probably mean, many could identify with these terms, right? In terms of, it doesn't mean you're actually a starseed, but all this higher consciousness stuff and how it plays out, you will know as I'm talking whether or not your heart, your body is going ping, 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 ping. So you get tingles, you get this awareness. It's like, yes, this is true for me. What else? We just know things, but we don't know why. We're born claircognizant, clairsentient. We feel things, we know things. We might call this being an emotional empath. We might call this being sensitive, but essentially we're wired. We're wired differently, okay? And we're wired to bring the thrive paradigm to the earth. But we firstly have to upgrade our survival programming, which is what we inherit through our human bloodlines. It's so rare that anyone will come in up to this point in our evolution wired to thrive rather than survive. And that is basically, we've kind of gone from living very much in harmony with nature to then trying to control nature. And that hasn't just affected our environment, but also our own bodies. So being in harmony is really, really important. And when we look at the indigenous cultures of this earth, we look at those who have had a connection to the stars and to nature. There's this innate understanding that is beyond words. You're plugged into what you'd call like the psychic internet, if you like. And there is this sense of much less needing to be said because there's much less that needs to be understood through the brain. So all of our wisdom, all of our knowledge is in our hearts. This is where we access everything. And yeah, it's just important to move on at this point. So we feel like we're outsiders and we don't belong. Very common. Typically, this will include being bullied when we're at school, or maybe feeling like an outsider at work, always looking around, kind of thinking everyone else looks like they know what they're doing. They're happy. They've got their shit together. Like, how come they've got a healthy relationship and I can't? How come they can make money and I can't? How come they're healthy and they eat crap and I'm not? Like, there'll be this sense of what is it with me that's wrong with me, right? And basically, we operate from a higher octave, not a lower one. But what we end up doing is bringing our energy further down, thinking there's something in us that needs fixing. And all I'll say is you're not broken. You don't need fixing. All you need is harmonizing, bringing back into balance and alignment with your higher self rather than the conditioning that you've inherited. What else have we got? Okay, so in terms of the star maps for StarPeace. Let's come back to that. So StarPeace, well, it's the opposite of war, isn't it? We all know about Star Wars and this intergalactic battle that's been going on in our universe for aeons of time between good and evil. Just imagine evolving beyond that war. And it's just imagine that the war is over. Peace has been declared in our universe. All the warships have been decommissioned and they're gone. They're leaving. And we, here as representatives of the collective consciousness of starseeds, of highly evolved souls in our galaxy, in our universe, have come here to pass the message to Earth so that StarPeace can become world peace. Except there's some problems going on here. There's a time lag, right? The time lag is a bit like light years when you travel to another planet, another dimension, another wherever we go, and we look at sci-fi for that. You don't just go in the same way that you would just travel around the world. It takes many human years, right? So how quickly can we bring the StarPeace codes to this earth? Well, that's down to each of us to activate inside of us, reclaim our sovereignty, and then go about fulfilling our mission, knowing we don't need anyone to validate us. And here's a big piece on that. What we do isn't necessarily popular. When you actually look at what's popular spiritually in the world at this point in time, it's what I would call 4D consciousness, not 5D consciousness for the most part. Only in a straw poll I did, less than 10% of the spiritually open and awake community, so those who may see themselves as light workers, as healers, as what else might we be? Way showers, all the different ways that we would express ourselves as being spiritually open. Less than 10% recognize ourselves as starseeds. So there is a re-education required here, or an opening to learning more about this and whether we resonate. Because what I see is simply that we're told, starseeds are not from this planet. They come to impart knowledge and wisdom. They come because they come from more evolved societies and they're coming to share that. And that's true. Yeah, there's definitely this sense of coming and bringing gifts to this earth. But I don't believe anyone is from this earth originally, personally, because this planet was created as a living library. It was created, from what I understand, to bring in examples of every type of consciousness in our universe and to have a living library where we could all be together and learn to live in harmony and actually learn what it means to co-create through free will. So this is also the only planet of choice, as I understand, in our solar system and our galaxy. I don't know about other galaxies. You know, some stuff is too big for me to fathom. I can only share with you what I have integrated and understand at this point. And if you ask me questions and I don't know the answer, I will let you know. I'm always answering from my own perspective anyway. So we've come to access the star maps for StarPeace. Each of us is encoded with the information to bring about change in the areas where we are masters. This could be education, finance, supporting pregnancy and better birth outcomes, healing modalities, healthcare, new leadership styles, new styles of organization and governance, new tech that doesn't cost the earth or the inhabitants. We're starseeds, okay? This doesn't just come randomly. This comes through our connection to our star families. Now, if you want to actually know more about StarPeace, you can go to starpeaceconsciousness.com and also join me and my community on the StarPeace Facebook page. Every Wednesday, I have a guest exploring a narrative shift in our collective consciousness. So bringing in some of these higher frequencies for us to digest and consider how we can actually implement them in our own lives through our own journey and experience. So yeah, join me on those. I'll put the links in the text box. We're wired to be friendly. We're really open. Like starseeds are basically like, hi, hello, I'm here. And quite often early in life, we get bullied for it. We get shut down for it. Don't be too loud. You're too much. You know, shh, like you're embarrassing. I've had all of that, right? So just remember that we came in bouncy and bonny because we came here to bring light and love to the earth, right? It's just not everyone's ready for it. And when it's been very dense and very dark and someone comes in bouncing around like Tigger, it's just not what you do, is it? Except it is what we do. So don't lose your light. What we do also learn to do is to be chameleons. And by that, this isn't about shutting down your truth. This is actually about you looking around and learning the language you need to speak in order to be heard. And I have definitely found myself challenged by that. So if you don't understand something I'm saying, let me know. But what I would say with that is one of our gifts as starseeds is to be able to see multidimensionally. So to be able to recognize there's a language and a perception of the third dimension, the terrestrial world, you know, the TV, radio, institutions world. There's a language that is spoken in the fourth dimension, which is the energy of the mind that try and understand through the brain, seeking connection, but very much from a head space rather than a heart space. And then there's the language of 5D and beyond, which is when you do come into your body fully and access your heart, then you're able to bring more of your soul light in and therefore remember a lot more and access your superpowers. So what else? We're often considered very ungrounded. We're creative and chaotic. We need external validation, but must learn to operate without it. And the thing about being ungrounded is we're just really comfortable in the stars, right? We're far more comfortable in our energy bodies than in our physical reality. Physical life feels painful. Not going to lie. Many starseeds have thought, I want to go home. I don't belong here. In our darker moments, maybe we've really thought about taking our lives. I mean, it does happen, just like looking for a label so that we can feel like we're okay. So if you need a label, take Starseed, please, and know that it's a huge umbrella for higher consciousness. My star families are coming through and they're just saying, yeah, it's really important. So I'll finish this with a little light language, but you're not alone. It's really important to remember that. And what you've been through, you will help others through. It's why you choose to go through it. And honestly, when we're non-physical and we make the decision to come to Earth or any other lower frequency density, we think it's going to be so much easier than it is. We forget just how challenging it can be. So there's a really cool little book. I'm actually going to bring that up for you now. This is absolutely one of my favorites. I read it when I was 24. And then I read it again after I'd done the work that I did with my teacher that I now teach and have developed into an embodied physical practice, a physical form called Fearless, Loved Up and Free to Be Me. That's the general one. I do it one-to-one with people who want to work with me one-to-one, the higher end. But this book is like an awesome little instruction manual for remembering. So if you want to start somewhere and see whether you recognize yourself as a starseed, it's all here. And you can find it on Amazon, ET 101, the Cosmic Instructions Manual. Take a photo now. and have a go. So let's carry on. So the ungroundedness, beyond the fact that it's just more fun in our energy bodies than our physical bodies a lot of the time, it's also that, when we do really come into our density, our physical bodies, and anchor into this earth, there's a lot of pain we need to process for the collective, for ourselves, for our families. So having tools to do that's important, and we'll stay ungrounded until we have the tools. Now, what concerns me is there's a lot of awakening and activating in the world today without the necessary embodiment and grounding so that we can actually be really empowered in this energy that we're receiving. What happens is it goes more and more in the mind. We get more and more chaotic. Our life gets crazier and crazier. And this is the point, is that that's not a way to fulfill your mission, my friends. We have to go from the head to the body first in order to access the heart. That's why many starseeds are in some kind of physical training. So I'm a yoga teacher. I've been a yoga teacher for 23 years now. And basically that physical embodiment from very early in my life taught me to be in my body, to ground, so I could bring more of my soul light in. Because otherwise, if you're not grounded, if you're not earthed, and you bring more activations, more openings, then it's just going to amplify whatever isn't balanced in your life, whatever isn't harmonious. So learning to channel that energy, root down to rise up, is really important. And it's not one size fits all, but the breath, sound, movement practices that allow us to shift our cellular memory to access our inner balance. And by that, I mean zero balance, which is your alignment in your physical body that activates your divine blueprint, so you can access the 0 point field. And with all the infinite possibilities available to you, you choose to align with the highest good of all, the win-win-win, what is optimal for all. That's the ultimate surrender that a starseed learns or comes here to master. We've already mastered it non-physically, but now we come in to embody it and master it and teach it in this life. Do you know what? My higher self has got a far better idea of what's going to absolutely bring the greatest joy and delight to me than my human self, even in my current awareness. So that surrender isn't to an external God, isn't to a wrathful entity that's going to decide whether you've been a good or a bad person. But it's actually you that already has everything you could possibly want. It's you, the masterful you, that is going to support you to actually fulfill what you came here to do. Right, there's another thing here that I think is really important, which is how we receive downloads. Now, as I said, I get them in dream states, I get them in visions. Very often I'll be working with a client, I'm in that higher frequency state, and something will come in as a message for me. I'll just take it on board. Often you could be doing something menial. You could be washing up, you could be, I might be doing my yoga practice or whatever, and so it will come in, something will come in, or it will come in the middle of the night. So typically, as I feel it, we feel this deep, strong connection to the non-physical, and we're getting these amazing downloads 1 minute, and then the next thing it's like communication dead. Where is everyone? I'll literally come out and in the middle of the night be like, hey guys, can you connect? I'm not feeling connected. And this can feel really disconcerting for us, because when you do tap into those higher frequency energies and you bring them through your body, you transmit them through the earth, you transmit them through your community, it feels really good. When it doesn't feel like that's happening, it's like you feel a little lost at sea, right? You feel a little bit like, is this real? Have I made it up? Next download, please. But here's the thing. In order to receive the next download or cosmic transmission, we need to stabilize at the frequency that we're at, so that then we can bring in the next level. So, for example, I got huge downloads over Lionsgate, and Lionsgate is, July to August. And Lionsgate is particularly powerful for me. I am a Leo by sun sign, and I was born on the 12th of August, which is when the Lionsgate typically shuts. So you have the opening from the 8th to the 12th, but it's open from the end of July, and there's the repercussions afterwards as the gate closes. Basically, I got all my instructions for the year, and it was like, right, I've got to get this out now. It's like, no. You don't have to do all this now. We're just giving you the instructions for the year. Now you need to be able to look at how you're going to manage your life, all the projects that are required for you to activate StarPeace in the collective. It's not one thing. there's an element here, there's an element there, there's an element here, there's this person to meet, there's that person. So it's like we have star maps from our hearts that come out. And like those plasma screens you see in sci-fi movies, it's like, okay, show me how to do this, right? Bring this in first, stabilize here, and then bring this in, stabilize here. Take this one out now, you don't need it, bring this in instead. And that's how we kind of operate multidimensionally, and it's why there are different projects all going on at the same time. It's also why we have to, and I say this knowing that the words have to in themselves are a bit of a problem. The invitation is that if we keep trying to put ourselves in a box and doing things the way others do things, we're going to have a problem, right? So taking care of your own energy is really, really important. Like when you need to rest, rest. If you're forcing yourself, and I used to do this a lot, got to get these videos out today, and like what would normally take one take takes 15. I've spat the dummy. I'm effing and blinding and like, I hate making videos. And it's like, no, you don't. You love making videos, but you're forcing something right now because your human self says it has to be done today. You know, time is an illusion. Everything's happening in the now. Time is something that, you know, we measure here on this earth in order to make sense of things. But ultimately, everything's coexisting in the now, right? And that's too much for many to fathom. Don't worry about it. But allow yourself to listen to your natural rhythms. Allow yourself as much as possible to do what absolutely has to be done, and then to create yourself leeway for just being creative, just zoning out if you need to. You know, pay attention to what you listen to, what you watch, what you read. Is it feeding and stimulating your being, or is it bringing you down and suppressing you? It's all really important because it's part of your starseed self-care. So that whole feeling cut off and dead 1 minute and really plugged in and wired up the next, think about how that can play in terms of manic depression as well. Think about how you can end up super high and excited about the mania, and then knowing that there is a big depression coming, because that's the way it works. So how do we go from these extremes into a space where we find the middle? And here's this thing about StarPeace. The idea of peace appeals to many on one level, but there's a subconscious fear that actually peace will be boring. Now, please remember, when I'm talking about mental health issues, I am not suggesting to anyone that they should do anything other than what they're doing. I'm just opening you up to a different perspective that will allow you to see beyond your current framework. And one thing I've really seen for those who do oscillate, and, you know, for me, there are definitely highs and lows in my energy circuitry, right? When I'm plugged in and I'm wired up, I'm like, yeah, and I love that state, but it's not sustainable, right? So when we're in any kind of manic episode, whatever that means to you, there's almost like a desire to stay there. We know it's like really exciting. We know what's coming next isn't that exciting. Think about recreational drugs. What goes up has to come down, right? So an important element of starseed frequency is to set your baseline. What is it for you that you want to anchor to every day? For me, I love the frequency of delight. Recently, I had a chat with the wonderful Yolanda Jewell, who is the Queen of Fabulosity. And I like the idea of connecting to fabulous as a frequency. Love it. Delight, fabulousness, the idea of positive expectation, this sense of a little bubbling up inside that just feels optimistic, feels expanded. That's where I like to be. That's my midline. And it's learning to surf this midline that's so important for us, because that's how we stabilize our frequencies. When we're like, woo, that's when we send more energy into the crystalline grid. When we're feeling flat, that's when we pull energy up from the grid to lift us up. And learning these tools is so important. That's why I teach them, right? Okay, so I said I'd talk about how we get messages in dreams, visions, daydreams, fantasies. I said we're prone to addictions and self-medicating, and I'm sitting here with a cup of coffee. So I love coffee, I really do, but I've had to turn it to half calf, single origin, organic. I put medicinal mushrooms in with my coffee, and I pay attention to what is too much and what isn't, right? Because I just love the taste of it. You know, for many, many years, I've adored chocolate. Like since I was a kid, I've loved chocolate. But the truth is, things change if you let them change, right? smoked from a very early time in my life. Still love the habit of smoking. And there's this sense of should stop, don't want to. And then we can make it about all these things around addiction and trauma, etc., etc. And there are lots of layers. I'm not saying anything is wrong or right, but for you right now, it's about having a relationship with yourself that is ultimately kind, loving, compassionate, forgiving. Because anywhere that you are in good, bad thinking, duality consciousness, that's where you're still separated, where you're not integrating. It's like, what's right for me now? What's good for me now? That's really, really important. What's going to most serve me in this moment? And to be really open to the fact that as humans, we have different needs to our soul needs. And sometimes it can seem like there's a conflict, but we want to bring balance and harmonize. Let me get on to sex. So this is what I wanted to say about sex. When we are in the act of making love or opening our energies up with another, sharing the energetic, bringing our energies together, we can really open ourselves up. Like this whole emotional empath thing comes up, and we can start to feel things, and we don't know if they're ours or they're the person we're with, or if you're having any kind of group experience or multiple partner experience. There's a lot of energetic cords and attachments that can actually take place, right? Because as a starseed, we're here to channel source energy and transmit it. We don't need to get our energy from other humans. We're not caught up in codependent relationships, not when we unplug from the fear matrix and plug into the divine matrix, which is what I teach. But what happens is, as our sort of extrasensory gifts, if you like, become more potent, more prominent, you can literally get near someone and you can feel their neediness. You can feel their insecurities. You can feel where they're out of balance with themselves. You can feel where there's a sense to dominate in order to feel safe. Like, we can't necessarily put it into words, but we can feel it. That's one thing that can happen. And so there can be a part of us that wants to engage, but another part of us that knows that it's to our detriment, because we're starting then to take on their stuff and process it ourselves. This is why, for many of us, including myself, any kind of exploration has involved alcohol or recreationals. And in that sense, you kind of create a bit of a buffer from that sensitivity. But then the payback is afterwards, right, when we have to do the cleanup job. So you can head over to RozyGlow, my website. We are offering up through the Fearless funnel, actually. I'll make sure that's available to you here in the text. A couple of audio meditations. One is an energy refund and decoding, and another one is the I am happy, healthy, wealthy, and in love. And these are really good, one for clearing your energy field, the other for just bringing new frequencies in. But on other levels, in terms of our sexual exploration, we can go into memories. Now, if we say past life, parallel timelines, remember, it's all happening now. But suddenly we can find ourselves in scenes that are different to what we're used to. Maybe we can get caught up in the fact that we're experiencing pleasure, but it seems like the scene's quite disturbing. You know, like it might be different to what you feel you've done in the past or would like to do. You know, I've seen all sorts in my head that have just kind of been really weird stuff, right? Obviously, all of us, when we are engaged in, you know, sexual union, can have previous memories come up of our own experiences, traumas, past loves. I mean, that's pretty standard and normal, right? But I'm talking beyond this. I'm talking about having scenes, orgiastic scenes come up, for example, or so even some forms of I don't want to freak you out, but anything is possible, basically. And the important bit is to remember that you're bringing stuff to light in order to clear it. And it is very important that we recognize we are more sensitive in this way to the average human. It's very important to keep our energy fields clear. So if you are more into exploring your sexuality and multiple partners, and, you know, maybe you're in an open relationship, whatever your truth is, and there's no judgment here, it's just how do you keep yourself energetically aligned and fine-tuned? Because as much as I love to play in any dimension, I have to consider What are the repercussions? How long is it going to take me to come to the place that I know I'm optimal? And that has adjusted my choices in this life in terms of what I do choose to do and what I choose not to do. And the beauty of us awakening to this whole sort of sexual exploration. And if you're interested, maybe I'll do a workshop on this, which will be closed space, so we feel we can be intimate about it. Just let me know. The beautiful thing about us liberating ourselves from our ideas of right and wrong and clearing the sexual shame that has been culturally, religious, familial, there's lots of layers in which it's been embedded into us. By us bringing it to light and clearing it, we can allow ourselves to remember what has been and to choose what we want instead. And, you know, I think we can all agree that interfering with someone's free will is not okay. Beyond that, there's a lot to open to and to explore. And yeah, where do I want to go with this as a final thought? So the boundaries can feel really blurred when we're in a sexual exchange. We can end up taking on unprocessed emotions of those that we are, are having a sexual encounter with. We can end up feeling I think for many, they recognize that really horrible, empty feeling after an experience, especially if it was a casual experience. Because when you feel someone else's light and physicality and connection, and then it's gone again, and there's no way of reconnecting to it other than through yourself and through source, it can feel really, really unpleasant, right? So looking at what motivates our sexual desires is really important. Looking at why we want to do what we do, what is it all about, without any judgment, again, just curiosity, helps us to make more discerning choices for ourselves. And I do believe we're coming into a space where we have cleared up enough of our energy that we recognize, a bit like in the TV series on Netflix, Sense8, that we're part of each other's pods. And however we seek to unify in terms of soul pods, whether that is just a physical connection, whether it's through sound and singing together, whether it is through a deeper intimacy that might include a sexual intimacy, there's no wrong, right? There's just the frequencies that we want to align with. And we do need to clear up the past, because a lot has been done to us, and we have done things to others that were out of alignment with free will. So guess what? It's just another call to compassion and forgiveness and discernment. So, nearly ready to finish. Let's just say that sex gets confusing as it opens us up to other dimensions, timelines, bloodlines, and soul memories. And they're coming up for healing and witnessing. So that's what's important with that. Finally, this is a big one for me, which is why I'm going to share it. Fear of being egocentric, worried about others in terms of what they think if we claim our brilliance. So in my various explorations of my being, there have been times when I've received the downloads of what I'm here to do, where I've just thought, well, you're a megalomaniac, sweetheart. Like, why does everything have to be bigger, better, faster? Like, what's this, what is it about? And what I'd say to that is that we have come here to seed concepts to this earth. They are audacious concepts. And for a long, long time, humility has been favored as a sign of spiritual evolution. Now, everything's up for review. So being able to state clearly, this is who I am, this is what I do, this is what I'm badass at, and not needing validation from others is very important. And if you have been told as a child, because you did show up and you were bright and bouncy and ready to meet others, and you were kind of told that, you were too big for your boots, or who does she or he think they are, or they think they are, look at them, ooh, big I am, then we can feel really sensitive to that. But we haven't come here to play small. If we play small, we will not fulfill what we came here to fulfill. Our soul mission is self-elected, right? Your soul mission you chose. Your blueprint is the different things you have put in place in order to make it as easy as possible for you to remember who you are, why you're here, what you've come here to do. Even me transmitting this video message now is to support you to remember your blueprint. So you will come across it if you need to, and you'll go, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh okay, maybe I'm a starseed. Or it's validation for the fact that you already know you're a starseed. Either way, like, this is the point. mission you choose. It's part of your soul blueprint, right? You're invited. Oh, Earth needs Earth needs those of you who've already got past this part in your evolution to go back and to support them to do it. Who's up for it? Okay, I'll do it. Yeah, I'll do it. Right? That's how it works, right? So, you know, we're here to actually have a good time. We're not here to suffer. We're not here to struggle. We have to buy out of that. It's really important. We're here to show that you can evolve from very unpleasant relationships to having a sacred union, like I have. We can go from having no money to having plenty. We can go from struggling with health issues to being well, vibrantly healthy. We can go from living a half shelf life, living a life where we feel like we're just not even awake, to being fully like buzzed and connected and all wonderful things. This is totally what we're here to do through our example, to show others that it can be done, that you can go from the stress, the struggle, the fear, into the thriving, the overcoming the fear and the doubt, so that you're working and you're operating from love, from the hormone oxytocin, and trusting your way through the unknown. So here's where we go. If you're liking all of this and you would like some support in actually learning to live as your starseed self in your physical body, hello, this is exactly what I teach people to do. So I have a soul mission to, this is new, this is what came through very recently. In fact, it only got crystallized yesterday, to work with the well-known actors and actresses who have turned into executive producers to create the content that is the new Earth paradigm content that comes through in story form, through entertainment, to dream those dreams away. So those that are the starseeds, that maybe recognize you are starseeds or not, I want you to head over to rosannahannis.com. I'll put the link in the text box. This is for you. Get in touch. Let's get talking. Let's get you connected to that divine matrix in every which way possible, so your blueprint is really clear. For those of you who are not actors and actresses who have turned executive producers, but you're feeling that you are starseeds, then please head over to RozyGlow.com, and I'll put a link to the Fearless, Loved Up and Free to Be Me program. I've literally just relaunched it. It's officially starting Wednesday, the 19th of October, but you can join at any point. I am taking everybody through this latest version because when I started to create the content 10 years ago, I didn't know I was a starseed. Now, and also none of the amazing things that have happened in my life had happened then. I was like, at the start, I created a process to support me through huge change. That was what Fearless, Empowered and Free to Be Me was. Gone through a rendition shift. It has reiterated to Fearless, Loved Up and Free to Be Me. And now we're calling it Fearless 2.0 for this higher octave upgrade. It basically teaches you everything you need to know so that you can reclaim your sovereignty, your inner authority, your inner sense, and live as your divine human starseed self, co-creating your reality consciously in alignment with the highest good of all and the win-win-win in everything. Learning more about how to thrive in this world rather than survive in this world as a starseed, so you can really access your gifts and teach others. It's for creatives. Everyone's a creative, by the way. If you didn't know you were creative, it's just that on this planet, the left brain has dominated. So harmonizing left and right brain is really important. But it's for those of us who enjoy expressing creatively. And it's also for the therapists, the healers, the teachers, the way showers, the influencers, right? The celebrities, again, go to rosannahannis.com. But when you actually distill what you're here to do and you bring in that highest level frequency to support you, doorways open, paths open. But they happen when you are a frequency match for it. And if they haven't happened yet, it is because you are integrating more elements of your being so you can be that frequency match. So recognizing that frustration of wanting to run before you can walk. Hello, we've all been there. But you have to have a dream. You have to have a dream that inspires you. You have to get over the fear of fulfilling that dream and then line up with it. And as you line up with it, magic happens. And that's what I'm here for. So check out the links. Book up if you'd like to have a conversation with me. I'd be delighted to speak with you. Let me know if you found this helpful. And please let me know what else you would like me to make videos about, because I feel like I'm on a mission now to speak more about what it means to be a starseed and the different challenges and gifts that we experience, and how to normalize and kind of bring this more to the earth so that more and more of us can recognize that we are. I believe there's a lot more than 10% of us, of the awake spiritual community, that are starseeds. Okay. I believe it's much closer to at least 50%. They're saying 33. So let's just see. There's a lot to awaken. Anyway, thank you so much. And if you did like this video, please do subscribe, hit the notifications button. Oh, whoever's here, I'd love to know who's here even. I just needed to sort of keep an eye on what it was I wanted to talk about. So I'll be delighted to hear more about your experience of this, and I will see you all very soon. You can join me for Monday Night Yoga online. This is called multi-dimensional yoga. It is specifically for those who are awakening, who will recognize themselves as starseeds. You can check out my website. I'll put the link for that. And if that is where you're at, then great. If you want to take a big leap, then that's fearless, loved up, and free to be me. Loads of love for now. Take care, beauties. Take care. Have a wonderful weekend.